Well, it's great to see him, hair slicked back, beard trimmed. I was looking at some long haired pictures and big beard pictures of you looking like a biker a few years ago. It must be fatherhood.
Yeah, trying. I think the stress of things a couple of years ago was the last thing on my mind. But yeah, settled now, so trying to look after myself a bit more.
Well, if you weren't in the news going into the Lee Woods Mauricio Lara fight last weekend, Ben, you've been in the news all this week over the towel coming in with, around 10, 14 to 10 seconds left in the round, in the seventh round. Um, you were critiqued, first of all, by a few people, Carl Froch, Tony Bellew. I understand Tony Bellew then said he thought he'd made a mistake afterwards, that it was the right decision. Explain, first of all, what you're going through when you're watching that guy. Where does that instinct come from? Because, as you know, there's an expression, a brave trainer, and brave trainers is what we don't want.
Yeah, well, look, I think there's a clear, almost a checklist that you have to quickly run through your head in a moment like that. And I've been in some of the biggest fights of recent times, to be honest, and two of the biggest comebacks in recent years. I've been in the corner for Fury against Wilder one, and actually Lee Wood against Mick Conlan, and both of those times, the number one thing for me of why I didn't chuck the towel, and there's been rumours before that I was gonna chuck the towel in with Tyson and was gonna stop the fight. The absolute nonsense. The difference was that I knew Tyson could defend himself, and that's the number one thing at that moment in time. It was the 12th round. There was a few minutes left in the round, even, and
Mm.
but I could see that, and something Tyson kept talking about along the way in the training camp was there's a chance that I might go down, but I've been down before. I'm experienced. I'll take my time in getting up. Once I get up, you know, um, I won't rush it, etc. And when he got up, the ref asked him to take a step to the side. And I could see that Tyson's legs were underneath him. His head was clear. He was able to defend himself. It was a sticky situation to be in, but I knew he could defend himself. Lee Wood, when he went down against Mick Conlan, the bell went. Obviously, spoke to him in the corner. I could see he was okay. He come back out. Bit of a rough patch, but I knew he could defend himself. Um, on Saturday, it was obviously something that we discussed, about, there's a chance that you might go down, Lara's a puncher in that scenario. Make sure you don't rush to get up. But that's not me critiquing Lee, because Lee's an absolute warrior. The first thing on his mind is to get back up and fight. And, he's shown that before in almost a real life Rocky movie with the Mick Conlan fight. And on Saturday, he got up, and I wasn't certain. I can't say that and there's lots of people going, it was the right decision, it was the wrong decision. I put a thing out to say I respect both sides of opinions, because the reality is nobody knows. That's the whole point of it. We didn't wait to find out. The
Mm.
reason I didn't wait to find out was because I wasn't certain that he could defend himself. And that was the number one thing. No matter how long he's left in the round, if we was to sit here and count for 10 seconds, it's a long time of someone throwing bombs at you. So, um, you know, that was the reason behind my decision, was I wasn't certain he could defend himself. Now I
Instinct,
openly admit
instinct, instinct.
instincts. Now I openly admit that I can't sit here and say I know for a fact that
Mm.
this would have happened or that would have happened. And it's a decision that I have to live with, and it's hard because I know Lee's come out and publicly said, I respect my trainer's decision and blah blah blah. That's because he's got the utmost faith in me, and he's a good guy, and we've got a great relationship. However, the truth is, I know the type of fighter that Lee Wood is. Deep down, his own feelings, he will feel like I would have got through that,
Mm.
and I've got it in me to come back and win. And he has got that in him, and I said that's something. As I said, that's something that I've got to live with, because I was the one that made that decision. However, I do feel like it was the right decision with everything taken into consideration. The fact that he's got a rematch clause, and just that's the main thing, that I wasn't sure he could defend himself, and it wasn't a risk that I was willing to take. But like I say, it's hard because I can't sit here and guarantee that Lee wouldn't have got through it, and I can't guarantee that Lee wouldn't have come back and won. And that could have happened either way when you're in there with two big punches. So difficult, but look, he's got a rematch clause, and speaking to Lee since the fight and the motivation, the fire that he's got to put that right, it's really, really, really lit a fire within my stomach to make sure that he becomes two-time champion of the world.
Were you surprised that opinion was so divided afterwards, if you've seen it all?
If I'm honest, no, because I think initially with how long was left in the fight, and people from a distance, they can't see little things and little details. So I completely get it. We're watching it on TV, the fight goes down before the tails come in, and it's like, well, hold on a minute, there's only 10 seconds left. But I think a lot of people actually initially thought that. To be honest with you, even the two guys in the corner with me were like, at very first, I thought, oh, a bit hasty, but then afterwards, I thought, actually, that was the right decision. So, as they say, no one knows the fighter better than their trainer, and I think in hindsight, a lot of people, as you said, Tony Bellew, Carl Froch, both changed their mind afterwards, and I feel like it was the right decision.
Eddie Futch has never had the wool taken or the rug pulled from under him for pulling Joe Frazier out after 14 rounds in the Thriller in Manila all those years ago, back in the mid-70s against Muhammad Ali, when the two guys were exhausted. He was just exhausted that night, if you recall. No one's ever pilloried him forever. All they said was he had to do it, and Ali admitted, if you remember afterwards, that's the closest to death I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Do you, when you say that Lee wants to be a two-time world champion, I saw the tweet I think you put out and Lee's liked, might have even been today actually, two-time. Have you spoken to him this week about invoking the rematch clause with Eddie Hearn? Presumably Lee's got to be off sparring and gym for 30 days anyway, is it?
Yeah. We're going into the office on Monday to have a chat with Eddie. We'll have to see how things lie and the schedule and the options, etc. But all I can say is Lee's more motivated now than he's ever been. And like I say, that fire that he's showing, that motivation that he's showing, has lit a fire within me for me to be probably as motivated as I've ever been in my career as well.
Because there are punches telegraphed by Lara. You know what he's going to do. And you can tell how much he throws into them, because when Lee was making a miss, he literally throws his body across the ring, doesn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Are we talking 5-6 months, July time, for him to fully recover and have a rest and have a long camp? Is that 5-6 months away, do you think? If you do it,
we're going to have a meeting on Monday. He's going to train Monday afternoon. He's going to go away with his family for a week after that. And then we'll go from there. But like I say, we have to see what options are there, and see what Eddie's saying. But look, I think the rematch is a huge fight with the way the fight ended, the way the fight was going, then the way the fight was ended. I also think that it's a huge fight, even if Lee was to allow Lara and Warrington to fight and then Lee fight the winner. So we'll see. We'll see how the land lies.
How it works out best, yeah. Just on other fighters, obviously you've had an on-off friendship, trainer, mentor, boxer relationship with Billy Joe Saunders for a long time. You've been linked with him again recently. Is he waiting on the outcome? I mean, I saw him the other day at the event and he looks in a lot better shape than he has been. Looks like he's dropped a bit of timber. Is he waiting for the outcome of this rematch with Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Smith to see who he fights next? And could he fight the winner of that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's waiting to see the outcome of that, because I'll be honest, Billy Joe's not in a financial situation where he needs to come back for a financial payday. He's in a situation where he misses boxing and he wants to box again. So whether that's one of those guys or whoever. So I think the first fight that Billy Joe will have will be like a warm-up fight, getting back into the swing of things. And then obviously the winner of that fight is a potential fight for Billy Joe at the end of the year. So yeah, look, step by step with him. He's a pleasure to have in the gym, and it's great that, as you said, there he come up and supported Lee, and he'll come around the country and support the boys in the gym, and always sharing his knowledge and experience with the lads, and I'm forever grateful for that as well.
Devin Haney's out in Saudi Arabia at the moment. We know you've worked with him, and I know it's a pleasure for you to work with him. He's a fascinating character to work with. Let's talk about his fight with Vasyl Lomachenko going to Saudi Arabia. Could you be working with him for that fight?
Potentially, yeah. If it goes to Saudi, potentially. Obviously, with the Kambosos fights, we worked from a distance, in discussion and scouting reports, etc. Actually posted part of it on my Instagram, I think it was. Yeah, he's an absolute pleasure to work with. He's a student of the sport, and what he's achieved at such a young age is phenomenal. But when you look at what he's achieved and where he is at and where his potential can take him, it's it's an exciting prospect, so to speak. When you take into consideration that he's already the undisputed champion of the world at 24 years old, and he's only going to get better.
What have you got coming up with your fighters? I think your Olympic medalist is out soon. The lunatic that is
Pat McCormack,
yeah. Very likable lunatic, yeah.
Yeah, Pat's on March the 18th. I've got Lee McGregor in Newcastle, in his hometown in Newcastle, on the Matchroom Next Gen show. Lee McGregor's boxing next weekend in Newcastle as well, actually. So it's good to have him back after a year out. He's had a tough year outside the ring, probably a tough 18 months outside the ring, and he hasn't boxed for it'll be a year out now, so over a year now. So yeah, he's I'm looking forward to him getting back into the swing of things. Almost a forgotten man when you take into consideration that he's the quickest fighter in history to win the British, Commonwealth, and European titles. I think it was inside 10 fights. So yeah, I'm looking forward for him to get back into the swing of things. Hopefully, some positive news on Luke McCormack coming up shortly as well, and get him going in the professional ranks.
I tell you what, Ben, I was very impressed with Royston Barney-Smith. He is a talent, isn't he?
He's a special talent.
At 19 years old,
and
I watched him live
19.
the other night. I'm telling you, I think I love the X factor of him, the confidence, the quirkiness of him. But there's something about his movement. He's so comfortable. Am I wrong, or am I seeing something?
No, so the thing is with Royston, he's very, very fast, but things we've actually done to bring that out even more is slow him down, settle him down. And when you slow somebody down, the speed gets, you can even see it even more. It's like a Floyd Mayweather.
Reminds me of Ronald Winky Wright. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
He reminds me of him. It's just so comfortable, almost like just rolling his shoulders and enjoying himself. More to come of him. Yeah.
Yeah, to see someone like that, like you say, he's 19, literally just turned 19 in January. So, 3 first-round knockouts in a row. He's definitely one for the future, and his goal is to be Britain's youngest world champion. So, so far he's on the right tracks.
You are, a renowned figure in the boxing world, but also a fan of the sport. Are you surprised we haven't heard Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk announced yet? And have we got to have that fight this year? Surely we have to have the undisputed title this year.
Yeah, I think I was actually an advocate for it before, that when Tyson was fighting Chisora, it was getting criticised. You know, I said, look, the reality is, it's the way it's been sold. If it was sold as what it really was, what I thought it was Tyson's going to have a tick over against Chisora before they make the Usyk fight in the early part of next year. Not a problem with that. But if they then go and box somebody else again, both sides, then you know that's a sad state of affairs, and that's not where boxing needs to be. So I'm positive the fight happen. Obviously, boxing is a business. There's going to be negotiations, and both sides are not going to want to back down to get the best for their fighter, and that's understandable. But yeah, that's the fight that we need to see next, without a doubt.
And you and I have spoken about this before. It's a tough fight for Tyson in a weird stylistic way, but he's got to perhaps go after Usyk like other heavyweights have had and have success. Joshua in the kind of 9th and 10th rounds in Saudi, or 9th round, I think, in Saudi. Derek Chisora in the first round, 6 rounds of the fight that he had with Usyk. Because at the end of the day, even though Tyson says, and you know him better than I do, that the belts and undisputed doesn't matter, it's still a great legacy to walk away from if he can walk away having held the undisputed title as well by beating Usyk.
For sure. I actually spoke to Tyson about it in Manchester. When I saw him in Manchester a few weeks back. I do think that he has to go about it way differently to what we've been seeing him recently. I think that if he's a bit too upright and stands off Usyk, you know, in terms of agility, quickness, change of pace, that advantage is going to be with Usyk. And I think that Tyson could find himself getting pushed back if he approaches it in that way. Whereas I think that if Tyson accepts that he might concede a few rounds early, lose the battle to win the war, so to speak. And I think that would be the way for Tyson to go about it and apply pressure and make Usyk work and make that ring small, gradually start to use his size and his weight and work away at Usyk's body and really start to take over in the second half of the fight.
Ben, wise words as always, the words that you give the guys that you love and care about and who you work with day in, day out, tirelessly in the gym. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks, Gareth.